Just look up at the night sky for a second. Past the city lights, past our own atmosphere, there's this endless black ocean stretching out forever. For as long as we've been human, we've stared into that darkness and asked ourselves that one huge question: are we alone? And the weird thing is, the better we get at listening to the cosmos, the quieter it seems to get. It's this profound silence, so absolute that it's become a mystery all its own. We call it the Great Silence. So this whole rabbit hole really kicks off in 1950. Picture this: a bunch of brilliant physicists are having lunch, and one of them, Enrico Fermi, is just thinking out loud about the universe. He considers the sheer odds, the mind-boggling number of stars and planets, and then he just casually drops this bomb of a question on the table. Where is everybody? And you have to understand, this wasn't just a flippant remark. It was the logical dead end that a genius mind hits when faced with an impossible emptiness. Just 4 little words that have echoed for decades and honestly still haunt us. So what is this great cosmic contradiction? Well, it's pretty simple. On one side of the scale, you have the math. The universe is so vast, so full of the ingredients for life, that it feels like intelligent species should be, well, everywhere. It should be common. But on the other side of the scale, what do we have? Absolutely nothing. Zilch. No signals, no spaceships, no cosmic ruins. Just silence. It's this massive gap between what should be and what is. And the more we explore, the more deafening that silence gets. To really get a feel for this, let's just start in our own cosmic neighborhood, the Milky Way. 200 to 400 billion stars. I mean, try to even wrap your head around that number. It's so big, it's basically meaningless. Think of it this way: there are more stars in our galaxy than there are grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth. And that's just our galaxy. There are maybe 2 trillion other galaxies out there. The scale of it all is just staggering. Okay, so you take that insane number of stars, and then it gets even crazier. Astronomers are now pretty confident that billions of those stars have planets that are a lot like Earth. Rocky, about the right size, and orbiting in what they call the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for liquid water. We're talking about billions of potential Earths. Billions of chances for life to get started. The numbers are practically screaming that somebody else has to be out there. And then you hit this wall. After all those billions upon billions of possibilities, the number of confirmed alien civilizations we've found is 0. A big, fat 0. For decades, we've been pointing our most powerful telescopes at the sky, listening, searching for any little peep, any whisper that we're not alone, and we've gotten nothing back. The universe, which should be this loud, bustling city, feels more like an empty, silent desert. And that, right there, is the mystery we're diving into. This is the Fermi Paradox. It's the official name for this nagging, unsettling problem. The logic makes perfect sense. The numbers are astronomical, but the result is a void. So finding an answer to Fermi's question is more than just a fun thought experiment. Every possible solution changes everything we think we know about our place in the cosmos. All right, so before we jump into the really dark, paranoid stuff, let's take a look at the simpler answers. The possibilities that don't give you nightmares. Maybe the silence isn't sinister. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable, even boring explanation for it all. These are the theories that suggest we're not in any manger. We're just special, or maybe just a little early to the cosmic party. So first up, you have the rare Earth idea. This basically says that the recipe that made us, a nice stable star, a giant moon to keep us from wobbling, big planets out there to shield us from asteroids, is so incredibly specific that it's practically a miracle we exist at all. Or hey, maybe we're just the first ones here. The universe is still pretty young, cosmically speaking. It's also totally possible that our 100 years or so of listening is just a tiny blip in time. And then there's a really strange idea. What if super advanced civilizations just get bored with the real world and retreat into perfect virtual realities? They might just lose any desire to explore a messy physical universe. But what if the answer isn't that we're special, but that something is stopping everyone from getting to where we are? This leads us to a concept that is as chilling as it is brilliant. The idea that somewhere along the path of evolution, there is a wall, a barrier that almost no one can get past. It's called the Great Filter. So the thinking goes like this. There's some challenge, some evolutionary hurdle that is so incredibly hard to overcome that it effectively sterilizes the galaxy. It's a test that almost every form of life fails. It doesn't have to be one single thing. It could be a whole series of nearly impossible steps. But the result is always the same. It keeps the universe quiet by making sure almost no one ever makes it to the finish line. I mean, think about it like an obstacle course. First, you have to get life from non-living chemicals. Maybe that's the filter. Maybe it's nearly impossible. Then, simple life has to evolve into complex life, another potential filter. Then you need intelligence, and then that intelligence has to develop technology. Any one of these could be the impossibly hard step. But if they're not, if life and intelligence are actually pretty common, then the great filter isn't in our past. It must be waiting for us, somewhere down the road. And this is the single most terrifying question that the Fermi Paradox asks. Because if the great filter is behind us, if just starting life, for example, was the hard part, then we've done it. We're the winners of the cosmic lottery. The universe is empty because it's waiting for us. But what if the filter is ahead of us? That would mean that lots of civilizations get to where we are now, with technology and global communication, and then something always goes wrong. Nuclear war, runaway AI, climate collapse. It doesn't matter what it is. It means the silence we hear isn't an empty nursery. It's the silence of a graveyard. And we're walking right towards an open plot. Okay, let's dive into the most paranoid, most terrifying solution to the paradox. What if the silence we hear isn't an absence of life at all? What if it's a deliberate choice, a survival tactic? What if the universe isn't empty, but is actually full of civilizations hiding from each other in absolute terror? This is the dark forest hypothesis, and it turns the great silence from a mystery into a dire warning. So imagine you're walking alone at night in a forest so dark you can't see your own hand. You can't see anything, but you can hear things. A twig snaps over there, leaves rustle behind you. You know you're not alone. You know there are other hunters in the darkness with you. In this terrifying analogy, every civilization in the cosmos is one of those hunters. Every single one is driven by the most basic instinct, to survive at all costs. And because the universe is so huge, you can never truly communicate. You can't trust anyone, because any other civilization could become a threat given enough time. You have to assume the worst. So what do? What's the only winning move in a game like that? You stay perfectly still. You make no sound. And if you see another hunter make a sound, if they light a fire or call out, you eliminate them immediately. Not because you're evil, but because you're afraid. The first one to reveal their position is the first one to die. And that's the horrifying logic of it all. The universe isn't quiet because it's empty. It's quiet because everyone who's smart enough to survive knows the number one rule: shut up or die. The great silence is a self-imposed quarantine born out of universal fear. And us, humanity, we're the naive kid who just wandered into the forest and we're shouting, "Is anybody out there?" at the top of our lungs, telling every silent hunter exactly where we are. So we've gone from cosmic graveyards to a universe of paranoid hunters. But there's one last possibility to consider. One that's so bizarre, so completely reality-bending, that it makes everything else seem normal. What if the reason we can't find any aliens is because the universe itself isn't what we think it is? What if this is all a simulation? This is the simulation hypothesis, and it solves the Fermi Paradox in the simplest, most brutal way imaginable. Maybe the universe is quiet because the programmers just didn't write any aliens into the code. Why would they? If the point of the simulation is to study us, why waste all that processing power rendering countless other complex civilizations all over the galaxy? The great silence, in this case, isn't a bug, it's a feature. And here's where this idea gets really compelling. Physicists have always been puzzled by how our universe seems fine-tuned for life. The fundamental constants, things like the strength of gravity, the speed of light, they're all balanced on a razor's edge. If you tweaked any of them by just a tiny amount, life, stars, none of it could exist. The simulation hypothesis says that wasn't a lucky accident. The parameters were just set that way by the programmers. This diagram kind of helps you picture it. Somewhere in a base reality, there's a creator. Maybe an advanced civilization, maybe just a curious kid in their basement, running this whole thing. Our entire universe, everything we see and feel, is just information being processed. In that context, Fermi's question, "Where is everybody?" has an almost comically simple answer. They're nowhere. They were never in the source code. We're alone because we were designed to be alone. And that's where we're left. At the end of the day, every possible answer to the great silence forces us to look at ourselves in a new way. Are we a cosmic fluke? Are we prey in a deadly game? Or are we just characters in someone else's program?
If our entire reality is a simulation, created for some purpose we can't even begin to guess at, then yeah, the Fermi Paradox is solved. But it leaves us staring into the abyss of an even bigger, more profound mystery. If our world isn't real, then what is? And why are we here?